Hey viewers, have you ever looked up at the sky, spotted a tiny moving dot, and thought, how is that satellite just floating there without falling back to Earth? It's a question that fascinates many people, and today, we are going to uncover the secret behind why satellites don't simply crash down. Get ready, because this explanation will blow your mind. Let's start with a simple idea: gravity. You know how when you throw something up, it always comes back down? That's because Earth's gravity pulls everything toward its center. Now, imagine you throw a ball forward instead of straight up. It will move forward for a while before eventually falling to the ground. But what if you could throw that ball so fast that, as it starts falling, the Earth curves away beneath it? The ball would keep falling, but it would never actually hit the ground. That's exactly what happens with satellites. They are constantly falling toward Earth, but because they are moving so fast, they keep missing it. Now you might be wondering, how fast do they have to go to keep missing Earth? Well, satellites in low Earth orbit (LEO) need to travel at an astonishing speed of about 28,000 kilometers per hour, around 17,500 miles per hour. That's nearly 7 times faster than a bullet. At this speed, the satellite completes an orbit around Earth in about 90 minutes. This is why, if you look up at the right time, you can actually see some satellites pass by, like the International Space Station ISS, which is also moving at this incredible speed. But viewers, if satellites are moving so fast, why don't they just fly off into space? This is where gravity plays its role again. The Earth's gravity keeps pulling them inward, preventing them from escaping into space. It's a delicate balance: too fast, and a satellite would escape Earth's pull; too slow, and it would spiral down and crash. So, satellites are placed in perfect orbits, where their speed and the pull of gravity work together to keep them floating in space without falling. Now, let's talk about how satellites get into orbit in the first place. A satellite doesn't just float up there by itself, it has to be launched. Rockets are used to send satellites high into the sky, beyond most of Earth's atmosphere. But just getting high isn't enough. The rocket has to give the satellite the right amount of speed in the right direction. If it's too slow, the satellite will come crashing back down. If it's too fast, it will escape into deep space. That's why rocket launches are carefully planned with precise calculations. But wait, there's something else really cool. Did you know that different satellites orbit at different heights? Some satellites, like those used for weather forecasting and GPS, are in geostationary orbit, which is much higher than low Earth orbit. This means they are about 35,786 kilometers, 22,236 miles, above Earth. Satellites in this orbit move at a speed that matches Earth's rotation, so they appear to be in the same spot in the sky all the time. That's why your satellite TV dish doesn't need to move, it's always pointed at the same satellite. Other satellites, like those used for Earth observation and spying, are in low Earth orbit. These satellites move much faster and orbit the Earth multiple times a day. The famous Hubble Space Telescope, which has given us breathtaking images of space, also orbits in low Earth orbit. But here's something interesting, viewers. Did you know that satellites don't stay in orbit forever? Even though space seems empty, there's still a very tiny amount of air at these heights, especially for satellites in low Earth orbit. This air creates a small drag force, which slowly makes satellites lose speed over time. If nothing is done, the satellite would eventually slow down and fall toward Earth. This is why many satellites have small thrusters, mini rocket engines, to adjust their speed and keep them in orbit. And here's another fascinating fact. What happens when a satellite reaches the end of its life? Well, there are two main options. Some satellites are brought back into Earth's atmosphere, where they burn up due to the intense heat caused by friction with the air. This is called a controlled re-entry. If you've ever seen a shooting star, it's a bit like that, except instead of a space rock, it's an old satellite turning into a fireball. Other satellites, especially those in very high orbits, are sent to a graveyard orbit. This is a faraway orbit where old non-working satellites are sent, so they don't collide with working ones. Right now, space agencies are working on ways to remove space junk because there are thousands of old broken satellites orbiting Earth, and too much space debris can be dangerous. Now, here's a mind-blowing thought for you, viewers. Satellites don't just orbit Earth. There are satellites orbiting the Moon, Mars, and even the Sun. NASA and other space agencies have sent satellites to explore other planets, and they stay in orbit around these planets in the same way they do around Earth, by balancing speed and gravity. Another interesting thing is that even the Moon is like a natural satellite. The Moon doesn't fall to Earth because it follows the same principle, moving at just the right speed to stay in orbit. So in a way, satellites are just mini versions of what the Moon has been doing for billions of years. Let's test your knowledge, viewers. Do you think satellites orbit forever? The answer is no. Many satellites are designed to last 5 to 15 years, after which they either fall back to Earth or get moved to a graveyard orbit. The International Space Station (ISS) also needs regular boosts to keep it in orbit, or it would eventually fall toward Earth. Another fun fact, some satellites help predict the weather, track storms, and even monitor climate change. Without satellites, we wouldn't have GPS, global internet, or even accurate weather forecasts. They play a huge role in our everyday lives, even though we don't always notice them. So, next time you see a bright moving dot in the night sky, you'll know it's not a star, and it's definitely not a UFO. It's a satellite traveling thousands of kilometers per hour, carefully balancing between speed and gravity to stay in orbit. Pretty amazing, right? That's all for today, viewers. If you found this interesting, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next exciting video. Keep looking up at the sky, and keep wondering about the amazing world of science. See you next time.